as I always say, security is only illusion, or even the illusion inside illusion. Yeah, I believe five stuff is actually there are no anonymity, there are no 100% security, and the security is only illusion.
There's a clip right there. That's
Yeah.
our hook. Security is an illusion.
All right, so today we are joined by Diyar, and we're going to talk about some malware and some stuff. This dude is just on top of everything. I'm very excited for this. So we're going to start with this question right here. When leaders think about cybersecurity threats, they always tend to go towards APTs, but is that what most of the attacks actually are, or is it more someone just finding a Cobalt Strike beacon or something like that and just trying to drop it anywhere and everywhere that they can?
Yeah, that's an interesting question at the start of the podcast. Well, first of all, we have to know the where has been targeted to the cyber attack. They are diplomatic persona, they are institution, organization, or banking sectors. If we know what's the targeted uh, area, we can identify what's the motive behind it. It's happened by IPTs or maybe hacktivists or maybe the cyber criminal gangs. So without knowing who is the target, we cannot have a 100% answer to this question actually. And as you know, sometimes most of the cybersecurity leaders, CISO, GRC, it's a APT, but actually it's not. They just realize it by the TTPs. Okay, this technique happened by this uh, made it by this IPT groups, or this tactics done by this specific groups, and it's not make a sense in a cybersecurity in general. We have to know who is the target and what's their privilege in a government, in an institution, in an organization, in a banking sector, in a critical infrastructure. Then we can 100% identify it's IPTs, or it's just a cyber criminal group, or it's just a hacktivist behind the hoodies and masks and so on.
So just to follow up on that, would you say the target is probably one of the biggest indicators for figuring out who the person is actually doing the attack, or are there other types of things you're looking at to help with the attribution?
Yeah, so actually, let's make it simplified. We have a cyber criminal guys, okay, like ransomware gangs. So why they don't target a diplomatic guy? Because it's not a targeted area. It's not interesting persona to be targeted. But they go targeting banking sectors, critical infrastructures, organization, big institution and companies, because they are scope of their own targets. But if we move into the APTs, they're gonna use maybe surveillance technology. They use zero click. They use 0-day exploiters. They use a good softwares, a good social engineering technique. That's a simple version to that.
Yeah, that's fair. Here's the pop quiz for you though. So I forget the name of the group. There's a malware that they were going back and forth with the attribution. It was around one of the Olympics, and they kept finding things and they were seeding it with other people's techniques. What do you know what I'm talking about? I can't remember which piece of malware it was.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So what are your thoughts about that one? Which way did you lean, or how did you feel about that whole conversation? Because it kind of leans into what you're talking about. Attribution's hard. There's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, so actually, attribution is one of the most hardest part in cybersecurity in general, because actually, because of the MITRE framework or other frameworks that available for blue teamers, the other attackers and other groups will just copycat their own techniques. And when the EDRs, NDRs, XDR, and other security tools came, okay, it's done by IPT, blah, blah, done by this country, but actually it is not. They are just doing a copy-paste the other techniques and methods to infiltrate this organization or this infrastructure. So the attribution, it's a quite challenging even for me or even for top tiers, because actually, as I mentioned, they gonna copycat the other technique. The other method is, for example, IPTA in a recent attack using Cobalt Strike Beacon, but they gonna change to Adaptic C2 or to Sliver or to Havoc, and that's make it more harder.
Yeah. How do
Yeah,
you
then you got
feel? I was going to say, AJ, how do you feel about MITRE ATT&CK framework? Don't you love it? Just to put that out there.
come on, man.
I think,
No,
yeah,
the answer is no.
I believe the MITRE attack is feeding threat actor too.
Yeah, you can definitely see that when they like when you go to a technique and then it shows, you know, the different groups that have used it. And like you're saying, like if I wanted to impersonate another region, one thing that I might do is check the keyboard and see if there's a particular alphabet being used, and then you know, that one piece would probably get a lot of people to
But
attribute it to a different region.
but actually there are some techniques and methods we can use for attribution. One of them is a coding style, the way that the specific group is coding, and the string is that's the string is, and the mutex is also. That's other techniques and tips the cyber threat intelligence or cybersecurity engineer they can use during their investigation. Even they can be cloned, they can be copied, but it's a game cat and mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask real quick, since you said it, how are you finding the patterns in the coding styles? I know, like, my first thought is AI, and you hate AI. So how are you doing it?
Yeah. Well, actually, for example, a virus total. Okay, so imagine virus total. They have a some kind of the future you can search by code blockers. Okay, so you can just get a result about how many samples like that, or even you can
Mm.
doing a diffing, a binary diffing. So it can be also helpful not only for patch bypasses or like vulnerability assessment and exploit development and so on. It can be also useful for malware analysts and cyber threat intelligence teams to identify the functionality and similarity in the binaries. Diffing also is one of the tweaks and techniques that security researcher can use.
Yeah, and just so I don't know if you've ever done any of this, AJ, but one of the things he's talking about is like, so instead of the old school hash, like the MD5 hash and stuff like that,
Yeah,
where it's just a hash of the whole file, you can do sections of it at a time and then compare it. And that way you can
yeah.
say, how similar is this, a majority of the
It's I
code
think
to this other
hash
set?
fuzzing.
Yep.
It's a
Hash
hash fuzzing.
fuzzing. There's
Yeah,
a, like imp hashing, I think is another style you
yeah,
can
yeah.
do too.
It's a
Yeah.
it's a
Have you heard of
infrared.
that?
Yeah,
AJ.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I
Okay.
don't really do it, but when he was describing it, like I was thinking of DOM objects on like
Mm.
websites and stuff, where you can kind of compare how similar it is.
but Mike, there are another interesting point. So the cyber criminal group is sometimes they just steal a source code of another malwares, and so that's make the game harder.
Was it like Lockbit Green or whichever one that was leaked out for
Ye-
Lockbit?
yeah, they steal a code, they reconstructed it, they add a new mechanism, a new techniques, and go sell in the dark web or black markets.
Yeah.
Do you think attribution actually matters?
So actually, it's not it's not make a sense to me at all. But for reporting and documentation, it's important because actually, if I know it's done by you, done by me, the attack is happened. The data has leaked. It's not making any sense. The incident is happening. But actually, for reporting and documenting, it's a very important. Even if the company will start integrating with the law enforcement, yeah, attribution is important. Yeah.
I think it only like if you're government or if you're like planning on pursuing something in the criminal courts, it matters, but otherwise it's just like, okay, this happened. Time to move
Yeah,
on.
but attribution is not 100%.
Yeah.
Maybe the insiders from this gang will start to selling this information to the law enforcement, and then they know who is behind the these groups.
Well, I was gonna segue since you brought up MITRE, but did you have something on this topic?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
maybe a hot take from you that I want to ask. So you said that in some cases, and I forgot where this came from. I was doing some research on you, but you say that in some cases defenders actually make attribution harder. Could you clarify that or and talk about what you mean by that?
So actually, there are some stuff that make attribution is harder. One of them is a copy paste. The other techniques and the methods. The second one is
Okay.
actually the second one is actually trying to deploy different techniques and different tricks in your samples. For example, different mutakis, different patterns, different junk codes. That's all make a attribution is harder than it does. But the number one is techniques and tactics. TTPs actually in a simple word. It's make it actually more harder.
Okay. Thank
even
you.
even there are one platforms is just having information about the ransomers. I think it's a ransom life. It's a great platform that give you information about ransomware groups, their TTPs. So actually a groups can came and say, okay, I will clone this technique and deploy in my next operation. And when the news reporters and cybersecurity researcher, okay, this group's done this cyber attack, but actually it's not. It's a new group is, or maybe the another group is, but pretended to be the group A as an example.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of defenders understand how easy it is to copy techniques because this is what I did in my prior role doing adversary emulation. I would just pull
Yeah,
research, pull malware analysis of a specific ransomware, in some cases, and just be like, all right, I'm going to put this technique in here, this technique, and it's going to look and perform exactly the same. And just analyze it and still it. You don't have to have the code.
yeah,
Yep.
but actually you can get a sample and reverse engineering it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. As long as you know the technique and how they're doing it,
Okay,
you're golden. But yeah, go ahead.
for example, a dark side. Okay, dark side ransomware is using a dynamic API resolution. For actually, it's a normal malwares or the normal ransomwares. You can see the import function IRT from the IDA or in Ghidra or even in a PE Studio. But actually, when you came into dark side, you just see one DLL. It's a kernel32.dll. Okay, so but during the runtime, they call all the other libraries that necessary for this operation. That's one of the examples. So another group is, for example, Medusa. Okay, Medusa group. It's a specific cybergun groups. They just gonna copy these techniques and deploy in their operation.
Yeah, makes
So
total sense.
yeah. Look, the attackers have the same resources that defenders have. All
Yep.
resources. They know how to
Sometime
doing
more.
yeah, they can know how to do adversary simulation, adversary emulation. They have a MITRE framework. They can get all techniques, all softwares, and actually, there are something that's more important. Actually, um, the indicator of compromise (IOC), the pyramid of the pain. I think it's a useless for today. It's a very useless. Yeah. It's a sound lawful, but actually I can explain. Okay, so
Yep.
actually, for example, in a hash, that's a very easy one in a pyramid of the pain. Okay, you can just insert one null byte into your software. You can just use hex edit to do that. The entire hash will be changed. Okay, and if you came into the domain, the threat actors can use the DGA domain generation algorithm. They generate 100 of the domains. That's another one. And the second one about the tools. The tools is quite challenging to investigate. For example, me as an attacker, it's a scenario. I use it NGRAT. That's an old school remote access Trojan tool. Okay. Okay. For my next operation, I'm gonna use Cobalt Strike, Metasploit, or Dark Command, or Ardamax Keylogger, or any other or Remcos. So how pyramid of pain can be useful at this stage? Or even for the IP addresses, I'm gonna use IP flux. In each 5 seconds, my IP address will gonna change. What you can do that? Or I'm gonna another technique is that can defeat my pyramid of the pain is a domain fronting. If you open the Wireshark, you'll just see Google, but behind the scene, it's my malicious domain C2 server, command and control.
Yeah, I mean, I think for most typical adversaries, Pyramid of Pain works great. But when you start talking about like APTs and nation state threat actors or much more groups, all that stuff becomes unique. They're going to create unique software, unique tools every time they go into a new environment because they don't want their crap caught. As soon as they land into an environment, that's the quickest way to get caught is to use tools people know about.
Yeah. So the specific and interesting point about the APTs or nation state actors, they think out of the box. They are not like a defenders. They just say alerts. Okay, compromise is happening. No, they gonna do a research. They have experience in a Windows internal. They have experience in a operating system internal. They know what a cryptography is and networking and programming also. And they have a AI also. They can automate their own stuff. They have their own offensive models for their own operation. But actually, the defenders they just relying on the culturic and traditional security layers. Okay, you have a snort, you have a Wireshark, you have a EDR, you have an NDR, you have a firewall, you are safe. But actually, it's not. You can see many softwares. They pretend to protecting a network, but actually every month as you see a new 0 day of this product. So they cannot protect himself. How they can protect my company?
Yeah, Microsoft, you hear that?
So I want to summarize this, DR. What you're saying is that the defenders are lazy and the attackers are more clever and more willing to kind of go the extra mile to make stuff work.
Yeah. So actually, yeah,
I
of course,
agree.
of
I mean,
course, yeah, yeah, and all I always tied this incident and this compromise or as you say landing on the victim machine of don't have good knowledge and awareness in cybersecurity in general. So actually, for example, threat actor is compromising business email of the CEO in a specific company, and they send email to Mike. Okay, Mike, it's your attachment. Please click on it and review it and send the report to me. You are directly click on it. Why? First of all, because it's your CEO and it's in a trusted cycle, and actually the email is illegitimate. But when the awareness came to play, you will call your CEO that actually you'll send this email to me or not. Protection in the company is not always about the tool. It's sometimes about the awareness, because we have a one laws in a cybersecurity in general. Awareness plus protection equals security. If you don't have awareness but you have a protection, it cannot work 100%. Because actually, as you know, every day the threat actors find new technique to bypasses AV solution or EDR. And thanks for teamers also, they publish a POC on GitHub and threat actor gonna clone it.
yeah. How do you
Yeah.
feel about that statement, AJ? Do you think that the blue team's lazier than the offensive team? I'm gonna put you on the spot now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I
And I
think
think
like
it's,
oh, go ahead. Let's hear it.
well, I mean, OffSec's whole motto is try harder. And then, like, we've seen it in multiple SOCs. They work the alert. They don't time box on either side. They don't pivot. Or they see something, they work the same alerts because they know, like, oh, this is benign, so I'm just going to do this and rack up my numbers. There's a lot of reasons to be less good at your job on the blue side than there is offensively.
And they not think out of the box.
Yeah. That's what Mike and
That
I taught in one of our previous teams.
yeah, because actually it's like a being in school. If someone being in school, the only accurate answer is what inside the books. The external resources is not acceptable. Even for the defender is the same. If the alert is not come, you are a safe. If there are
Yep.
no result in a Windows Defender, you have a no threat. But actually, you don't know. Maybe threat actor is added the program into exclusion list in a Windows Defender.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've seen that a lot where they're
Yeah.
so, and I think you've said a lot about not trusting tools, not liking tools, but the blue team, so especially more junior folks and even intermediate folks are so reliant on the tools. And like you said, if the tools don't see it, it never happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough about the underlying technology and the technique to understand that there's bad here unless it surfaces it up for me to see.
So actually, Mike, let's discuss about a tool a little bit. So what's a tool? Tool is an instrument made by human. There are some kind of the static data that already identified to the tool. And if this data and this information is not available in the tool database, the tool and software will not recognize it. Okay.
Yeah.
For example, we have a good tools for malware analysis. Detect it easy. Okay, that's one of the most essential tool for malware analysis purposes. But actually, you can go upload a new sample unit. They cannot detect it because there are no signature inside the software. And if there are no signature, the tool cannot identify it and recognize it. So tools is just instrument made it to make tasks easier, like how bug bounties today made that automate their own operation and processes to find a bug and vulnerability in specific web application project. But actually, the manual analysis is a key point. It's a key point because actually maybe there are some techniques that a tools cannot find it. For example, we have two tools for string analysis: Flosses that developed by Mandiant and Stringis that developed by sys internal teams from the Microsoft. You can go encode your strings into the hex. The strings will not recognize it because it's not from the signature, but Flosses can do. And you can look the Kappa. The Kappa is another tools that developed by Mandiant, I think, Flare. It's based on the rule. It's like a Yara framework that can, if the techniques like a specific API is available inside the signature, it can identify it. But if not, it doesn't work. So I don't believe tool at all, because maybe sometimes it produce a false positive like AI.
Yeah, AJ loves his tools too. So he's talking shit about you. No, I'm kidding. No, AJ is a big believer. He says the same thing all the time. Why do you trust your tools? Don't trust them.
Well, I just don't think you should rely on them. Like you mentioned before, right? There's certain things that the tool's not going to know about, and so the assumption is if nothing, then I'm safe, which is why threat hunting exists, right? Because we know there's things that are going to evade tools, and especially like EDR, if we're looking at that specifically. But there is a over reliance, and I think you had mentioned this in one of your other talks, where like, what happens if that tool goes down? What happens if Cloudflare goes down? Like, what are you going to do then? Are you just going to wait and hope that it comes back up? Or do you have like another skill set that you can actually utilize to identify what's going on? So I think that's a big issue of mine, a pet peeve, if you will.
Well, actually, it's true. It's a true. Your talk is making sense actually, but still, I'm like Mike. The tools is not always the matter. You have to, for example, understand Windows internal to see how malware abuse legitimate utilities. It's called known lol beans. If you don't know what's a bits admin is, you will never know what's happening in the processes. If you never know what's IEX invoke expression in a PowerShell, you never know why has been used in this operation. So actually, it's a make a security researcher in two different parties. One of them believe a tools, and the other side is not believe. So I'm in the side that I don't believe a tool, even I'm not relying on the tool 100%.
I would say I'm in the camp, probably like you, but I might use tools a little bit more. But I look at them as like a carpenter looks at their tools, right? You can have it. And if you're not a carpenter and you get like one of those things that shave wood, you may be like not using it right. But once you get your skills, you can use it exactly, and you know what tool to pull out to use when. And when you don't have that tool, right, someone stole it, you can probably identify or make another tool to replace it because you understand what its purpose, what it was for, why you need to utilize it. Because what's funny is I actually run into that a lot when I'm training SOC analysts, where for whatever reason, we don't have those logs, or they're not coming in, or some tool's not working. Well, how else can you find that information to prove whatever your hypothesis is? What else can we do here, folks? I mean, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah. So actually, for example, let's make another good example.
Okay.
Every SOC analyst and even malware analyst and threat hunter use virus total, but actually virus total also provide a false positive result. Let's make a simple example. Go to write a simple Python program, just print hello world, nothing more, and go compile with PyInstaller, and then upload into the virus total. You'll see your file will be marked as a malicious. Yeah, you can try to test it. Even try to write a simple hello world PHP code and try to obfuscate it with a base64 and then upload into the virus tunnel. Then it would identify as a malicious. So how virus total 100% sure that my software is a malicious? Even they have a sandbox. It's like a cat and mouse game.
Yeah, it's like typing AMZ and putting it in a PowerShell script and then running it like just as a string. Oh, bad, blocked.
Yeah. No, even sometimes write a simple software like a process hacker. It will Windows Defender trigger it because you're trying to access the registry key for add your software into startup into the run was key. So
Yep.
they're relying on a behavior, the behavior that threat actors usually performing during their processes.
And so your point is essentially that the behaviors change so rapidly. It could be something totally different tomorrow, especially if they're a more mature group. So you're basically living in the past like an archaeologist when you're relying on your tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to put words in your mouth, but I mean, just trying to summarize it in common language. You know what I mean?
So actually, it's cybersecurity is not easy. It's not so hard also, but you have to have a good. Yeah. Nothing is very hard. Nothing is very hard. You can learn everything you want. It's just matter of time and how much interesting you have for this area. But actually, the mindset is the key. Mindset is always the key. Mindset is always the key, and then awareness, because actually, like someone says, red teaming is not about achieving DA, okay, or active controller, domain active controller. It's about simulating a real world threat. That's actually it. So it's just depend on the mindset. Someone's maybe think the red teaming is all about bypassing EDR or IV solution or by good initial access, but actually it's not. Red teaming is out of this. It's true, it's part of this, but actually it's not. So that's actually it's a matter.
AJ, did you have any other questions that you wanted to throw in there? We've been hitting this topic pretty hard.
Do you say that targeted attacks are more like art and info stealers, ransomware, etc. is just more like someone throwing paint on a canvas?
Yeah. you can find dozen of the books about the targeted attack, dozen of the conference talks. But if you came into the ransomwares, there are only lessons. Maybe they are only available in a malware and reverse engineering books. There are dozen of the movies and documentaries about the zero-day exploiters that abuse it in a targeted attack or zero-click attacks. But
Right.
for the ransomwares, I think they are no. I don't see it.
I'm with you. They're very boring to reverse and look at. I used to get so mad when people. I was a malware analyst for a while, and people would wake me up at like 2 a.m. for some basic crap. I'm like, just Google it and type in GitHub with it. It's there. Go
Yep.
look at it. Leave me alone. Do not wake me up.
Yeah. But actually, malware analyst, if he is working or she is working for the company, it's not possible. Oh, sorry, it's not good to uploading into the virus total.
No, it's not. And
Yeah.
that's like the reverse attribution issue where
Yeah.
now they're setting up triggers to say, oh, someone uploaded my file. Now I know I got caught. Now I need to do something.
That's why the malware reverse engineering and malware analysis can make your task more easier. So actually, malware analysis is not so hard. In a general, it's not so hard, but because you have, I mean, it's quite challenging for those people doesn't know their goals, because you have to know why you analyze the malware. What's in your goal?
Yeah.
So actually, maybe you don't believe when the EL spy domain has been compromised. If you know about it, the EL spy, it's like a yeah. So actually, I just use it inspect element and view page sources for investigation. Nothing more. No Wireshark, no Fiddler, no Charles.
I'm of the same opinion. Like people try too hard. It's like they do that with passwords. Oh, I have to crack every password. No, you don't. There's a thing called pass the hash, pass the ticket. Say with malware, why are you
Yeah.
going to reverse engineer by hand PowerShell when you can just have it decrypt itself and then look at the payload
Yeah.
once it's decrypted? It's all built in. Don't make your
Yeah.
life harder, folks. Come
Yeah.
on.
even you don't have to understand the full picture. You just have to know find some clues, some dots, and then connect to each other, and then it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm a big believer too when I teach new analysts and when I'm coaching incident commanders and stuff too, that you don't just give someone a piece of malware and say, "Hey, reverse engineer." You just don't give artifacts to someone like forensic artifacts and say, "Hey, look into these. What questions do you have in the investigation that I can help you with?" That you should
Yeah.
have some leading questions for me. What do
Yeah,
you want to
yeah,
know?
yeah. You need IOC, you need your functionality, you need your classification. That is make your analysis more easier and more faster. But actually, if I just import this binary into the IDA, go to the import section, press the shift and F12, go to the strings, and just press X to cross reference, it's not making sense. You have to know what you are doing in the IDA. Even sometimes you don't need to using debugger. You don't need actually that. You just need to use your brain to unpack it. Yeah. You can just doing the running the malware into your isolated environment when the network are turning off. You just using simulators like iNet, SimFakeNet, and the other utilities, and you get a final version. Because actually, when the malware is packaged and obfuscated, when it came to the runtime, they decode itself.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because a lot of people kind of turn their nose at dynamic analysis when there's a lot of really good information you can get from dynamic analysis, not to mention it's so much faster than doing the debugging, doing the decompilation and all that stuff. And if you do it right, there are definitely some nuances. You can't just, especially for more sophisticated stuff, just throw it in there and expect it to work the way it's supposed to work. You got to do some stuff to it, but it's quick. It's a good tool.
Yeah. So actually, Mike, let's make a good example and good scenario.
Okay.
You have a malware that when after running create a log file, and when you right click and edit in the notepad, you just see a blob of code. As an analyst, I know this program tried to use a two function, write file and read file, and also create file. I'm just jump into the X debugger or OE debugger and put a breakpoint on this three functions, and I got a result.
Mhm.
You put a breakpoint on the read file, you put a breakpoint on the write file, you put a breakpoint on the create file. You get a result. You don't need to make some stuff complex on yourself during the investigation, because actually malware analysis is a time consuming.
Very much.
The CEO, the GRC, the incident response team doesn't wait 24 hours to get a sample overview.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even analysts can use the plugins in IDA. There are a dozen of the plugins in IDA they can use, like IDA Spotlight, XREF Expert, Kappa Explorer, like HRTNG from the Kaspersky Lab. There are many other, like MCP, the local. I use it. I use it MCP with a cloudy desktop. It make it tasking easier.
Ooh.
You said you don't like AI or tools, and you're using MCP.
Well, actually, I believe that I make it people lazy. For example, even
Yeah,
the
I'm
IT,
lazy.
even IT administrator to fixing the solution, the issue in the computer, they just got a chat GPT. Okay, I have this issue. Paste your error. You got the solution. So I just use AI by the amount that I need.
That's fair.
Maybe maybe there are some syntaxes or some line of the pseudocode I can't understand that. I just connect to the NCP and got an investigation and got a result. And
He's
because
just searching.
actually the AI result always need the validation. You have
Yeah.
to validate that the answer is accurate or not.
So I have a follow-up question because you were talking about executive level and stuff. What about malware in general or just malware analysis? I'll leave it up to you which direction you want to take. What do you wish that the executives at these companies knew and understood better about this whole area of expertise in cybersecurity?
They should do. They should understand that, because actually most of the CEO is following money. They
Mhm.
need a money to live in their life, to pay the salary on the employee. They don't care about the security at all. Even I wish every CEO, every employee, before start their own jobs in a specific company, taking a cybersecurity course, even the foundation, to
Hmm.
have an overview about maybe what they are facing that. Because actually, sometimes the cyber attack could be a simple trick, but the impact is a big. I have a one personality. Personality type. I don't care about what tool are used. I care about the result. When you're doing a football goal, a soccer, which team is playing a good games, the good passes, the good skills is not the matter. The matter which team are won the game. That's actual make a sense.
That's fair. Um, is there any specific, like, one thing, though, that you wish they understood better? Like, it sounds like you wish they knew more about cybersecurity, but is there, like, one specific thing, like, hey, you're getting this wrong, executives, you're getting this wrong, CEO. You need to understand this so that your company, so you better understand the risk that your company has today.
So I think every CEO and every employee have to understand the social engineering, both
Mm.
physical and the digital. And the second one, the most techniques and tweaks maybe threat actor is abusing during their operation. And the third one about a malware. Because actually, without malware in a sophisticated cyber operation, nothing makes sense. Even you will maybe face it bad. a simple spyware contains millions of dollars exploited, like a 0-day or 0-click is. It's only for say one malware, millions of the dollars. Imagine these three things: so social engineering, malwares. That's all.
I'll give you 3 things. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you, AJ? What else? What else you got there on your list? I feel like I'm hogging the interview time
You're
here.
good.
What questions do you have?
This is more your field. Yeah, I guess what. So he just asked you like what the business side needs to know, right? And social engineering is obviously a big one. Do you
Yeah.
see social engineering becoming more prevalent than actual code?
So yeah. Because actually, the one of the most technique is that threat actor is using for initial access, and the first foothold is social engineering by phishing, spear phishing, smishing, vishing, and the other technique is, or sometimes romance scam.
Uh, I think now like more and more attacks are buying credentials, right? Like they're buying something through
Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah,
info
yeah, yeah,
stealer, they're
yeah,
logging in.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you mean initial access brokers? Yeah, that's it's another layers that make a big issue from the attacking perspective. They don't need to have an exploit. They don't need to find a new vulnerabilities. They're just gonna buy a credential from the dark web markets or Telegram groups sometimes and get access.
Yeah, then you don't
But
have to spend all your time developing malware.
yeah, but if they are if they are two-factor authentication is not work.
Mike knows
Yep.
about that.
Yeah, 2 factors, a pain sometime, but there's a lot of
Yeah,
ways around it too. I mean, like a
yeah,
lot of this is actually I released some videos this week for my YouTube channel um on MFA. Like that's what this whole week's about. But like when you start looking at tools, like people think, oh, if MFA is in place, you're good. But with phishing, there's a whole bypass. It's like a man in the middle thing, and you actually
yeah,
get the cookies in the session state. You're good. You
yeah,
don't need a password. As long as the session is relevant, you're good. Then you can put a backdoor in there as like an approved application or
yeah,
something. Golden, you're done.
yeah.
Like
Correct. Yeah,
people just don't know
yeah,
it. I don't know. It's so funny.
yeah. So actually, that's why I have mentioned it earlier. The knowledge and awareness is of the first key, and the protection is the second one to protecting your business. But we have to know the truth. There are no 100% secure systems. If it is smart, it is vulnerable. And
Yep.
Oh yeah.
more technology, more vulnerability, more exploitation, more data leakage.
I was trying to find in here. I had some notes on here about you doing a lot of stuff with firmware, and I wanted to ask you about kind of your experience with the firmware based malware because I haven't done any of that stuff. So I'm super curious
Yeah,
about your perspective there.
yeah. So my upcoming conference in beside Budapest 2026 is about firmware malware that embedded into the specific hardware.
Hmm.
That's a case study. That's a real case study, real incident that happened to someone in a one of the countries. So actually, firmware malware is a quite different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the motive is the same, maybe for espionage, sabotage, and so on. But actually, the code and the structure is a quite different.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's maybe threat actors just trying to compromise the update service and inject the malware into it. Yeah, one of my talk in a DeepSec is about that. There are 4,000 downloaders of this new update.
Interesting. And what does that attack flow look like? Are they compromising the site where the update is, or are they doing like man in the middling, passing their own update through? Like
No,
what
no,
does that look like
they
there?
they compromise web server and they
Hmm.
release a new updates for the specific hardware that the regularly updates is not came very soon. And when the people's so the new updates they're gonna download it to fix their errors. but actually they infected by malware. I saw the payloaders. I think there are one Excel file and one executable file in the resource section are embedded in the sample that I have talking about in a DeepSec conference in Vienna. Yeah, but the first sample, the first stage is a MZP. So we saw MZ header, but actually there are also MZP. So MZP is a mountable. You can unmount it, like how you mount
Interesting.
how you mount or unmount the logic drive.
Mhm.
And
Right.
and after that you see one Excel file and another portable executable file that work entire operation. But actually, they are one of the interesting stuff. I have found the hard-coded SMTP information from the payload. Yeah.
So what type of firmware is it? Because it almost sounds like it's like drivers, not necessarily like hardware firmware, or is it both like hardware firmware that sits under the operating system
So
and
I,
yeah.
so the malware structure is work like this. You put the hardware into your device, into the computer, and you
Mhm.
attach it into the flasher that flashing your firmware, your hardware. If you use it Arduino already, you know what's the flashing process, how it
Mhm.
works. And then when you update it, you affect the computer and the hardware also.
And that still has a MZ header for those types of files as well?
So actually, when you open the flasher, it's actually a portable executable. But I think, as I remember, it's a new file come on through into the hardware because you
Mhm.
need to you cannot upload executable file into the hardware. They are
Right.
actually EFI file and the other file type.
Ah, okay. So that makes more sense that you can mount it and say EFI. That makes total sense now. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Because actually, when you flushing, it require the EFI file or the firmware update file to work.
Okay. And how are you extracting, like when you're doing the malware, how are you pulling the malware off of the firmware? Are you having to do like some jumps and
I'm
stuff to it to pull it, or like what?
no, I don't. I just work on the server side on the
Oh,
sample
gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, you're not recovering. Okay, I was curious. I was like, how
Y-
is he pulling this off of these systems? That,
No, no,
like
no,
I've
no, no,
never
no,
like
no.
that's some crazy
No,
stuff. Okay.
yeah, because actually, you need to reverse the hardware. You need to, in
Yeah.
this case, yeah. No. I just work it on a server side.
Easier. Okay.
Yeah. Easier, but
No,
complex.
yeah, that's all you. That's all you, brother. That's all. It's out of
Yeah.
my house right now. Yeah, that's pretty cool though. What's like the
Yeah.
coolest technique you've seen with the firmware so far when you've looked at firmware, like malicious firmware?
Yeah. So actually, in a general terms, I'm mostly interested by update service hijacking.
Hmm.
Yeah, like this case incident I have talked about already. You gotta update this, but you will infect it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm mostly interested on this area. And the same case I have worked on the DeepSec conference. It's the same. On a server side, you gotta update this, download it, and run the flasher, and you gotta infect it, both you and hardware also.
It's so funny that this theme keeps popping up, at least in my world. I don't know if AJ has seen it a lot, but I've seen it with AV. You used to be able to force updates and it would cause it to crash. And then there's your bypass to AV. Then you also had AV where you could use the download to actually pull down malware and stuff, and it wouldn't be flagged
Yeah,
because you're using it to pull down the malware.
yeah,
There's so many fun little tricks with the update mechanism and stuff that you can just abuse. It's
yeah,
so funny to me. I don't know why
yeah,
it just keeps popping up in my life. I don't know why.
yeah. I think last time the Asus update has been hijacked once time.
Mm.
I think it's
They got
I
a couple
forgot
of
the
vulnerable drivers out there too, Asus. Yeah.
yeah I think I forgot the operation name
Hmm.
that conducted for this attack. You gotta update this and click
Mhm.
update. You are infected. Yeah, I love
Yes.
downgrade attack also. The downgrade attack, I love it also.
Oh, where you downgrade to a vulnerable version of the software?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fun.
yeah. That's a interesting case. Well, until we are live, we will see another techniques and other complex tools that still doesn't reveal it.
When is your talk on the firmware? Is that coming up?
It's in 29 April, I think. 7 days later.
Okay. Awesome.
So is it done yet, or are you still working on it?
No. The whole structure, the whole presentation are completed. The whole operation are completed. I just need to present to people.
Okay. See, we're procrastinators. Our presentations aren't done until the day before.
Yeah. So actually, it's the case is so interesting. One of the guy bought a camera from a website.
Mm-hmm.
When it plug into the computer, the virus will inject it into the specific process.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. I will be listening to this talk when it comes out.
Man,
I will drop to you.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That also is terrifying because I know like some things on Amazon come flashed with malware now, and it's like
Yeah.
you can't trust anything. Like the whole supply chain is compromised.
Yeah, I mean, there was some stuff coming out where like the refurbed equipment were backdoored and things like that. So you really, I mean, in a lot of cases, you can't trust suppliers anyways, but refurb stuff where people are like, oh, let me update the firmware and then I'll return it. And then it gets back into the system.
As I always say, security is only illusion. Or even the illusion inside illusion.
Mm-hmm.
I believe 5 stuff is actually, there are no anonymity, there are no 100% security, and the security is only illusion.
There's a clip right there. That's our hook. Security is an illusion.
Not only illusion, it's an illusion inside illusion.
Yeah. It's like the turtles on turtles thing.
So actually, before finish the podcast, there are a nice code. Your anonymity will be done once you connect to the internet.
Yeah.
That's all. And there are another stuffs we can put on the beginning of the videos for everyone that interested in malware analysis and cybersecurity in general. There are 5 stuffs they can get experiences on it. The first one is operation system architecture and internal.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is Windows internal. And the third one is a foundation of programming. And the fourth one is foundation of networking. And the 5 ones, be curious.
That's great advice for folks. Well, since we're coming up on the time, I don't want to keep you longer. You're probably going to have to work in a bit. Where can people find you and to find your work, your research, your talks, all that kind of stuff?
So actually, I have a one blog, reversethemalware.blogspot.com. Yeah, and Win32Malfav in YouTube, and also Diyar Saadi in LinkedIn.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for that. We'll put all those things in the show notes so people can find you and ask follow-up questions. AJ dropped out of here because he says bye-bye. Hopefully he'll pop back on. We'll give him a second so we can wrap it up. It's been a fantastic podcast. I love this stuff, man. I love speaking with people who are just passionate and curious. Both AJ and I are, which is one of the reasons why we love doing this, is just to talk to people with the same mindset.
Yeah. Well, actually, I always try to do my best for regarding to help the community. Even as an Iraqi, it's a quite challenging to travel the war. But actually, I always try to do best in an online and digital world to the people, because actually, I have passed a very, very difficult situation into the reverse engineering, into the malware analysis, into the cybersecurity in general. So I want to use my experiences and knowledge from the books, from the documentaries, because actually, my talk is not came from my pocket. It's all from the resources and experiences that I have faced before. So I want to get, because actually I believe that there are dozens of the people cannot afford the courses like a SANS, like a OPSEC, like a many other academies. So I try to give it free. Same the techniques, same the methods, and that is all. Even the maybe I don't know how to explain that, but the SANS course is just a big VM machine with some kind of the textbooks, and that is all. You can find everything from the internet, all results.
Mm-hmm.
And even you can mention in the chat there are two platforms. It's very good for malware analysis. Malware Unicorn is one of them. Malware
that's a good one.
Unicorn, and also Mal API. Mal API.
Haven't heard of that last one. Mal API. Okay.
Mal API is a list of the malicious API that maybe spyware, ransomwares, and Trojan uses, with the explanation.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. Thank you for providing information. Hopefully folks can find you, follow your journey, follow that information you're putting out. I think you're putting out some really great research, doing some really good stuff. I will be following personally, but hopefully other folks will as well. AJ, go ahead, wrap us up. What did we cover today, man?
Yeah, so we covered quite a few things on malware. I really like when you went over the 5 things that people need to do. We'll definitely clip that, have that as a short. Thanks so much for going over the difference between like targeted malware, ransom group, and more cyber criminal malware. Talking trash on AI, we'll let it slide. But no, it's been great to have you. I think it's great to connect with people, and I just want to thank you for being up in the early hours of your morning to be able to facilitate this. So
It's my
everyone check
pleasure.
the links. We will have Diyar's contact information there, and he has a talk coming up in 7 days, 8 days, depending on when you're watching this. April 29th, he is going to be presenting again, which is very exciting. And you previously presented at Black Hat and Riyadh. We didn't even bring that up, but I think that's a huge accomplishment. I saw that you want to present at all 3 Black Hats. I think that would be really cool. It's a really cool
I
thing
will,
to achieve,
inshallah.
and yeah, I'm sure you will. So yeah, thanks so much, and we'll have the links below. Cool.
All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you again. Have a good time, and we'll see everyone around on the next episode of C-Suite Cyber. Thanks, everyone.